Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to all of you in today's session on tax reforms and amnesty package by the government of Pakistan. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you all for the fantastic interest shown on a working day and taking time out to attend this session. As you all know, this is a very important topic which not only impact the tax professionals and practitioners, but pretty much everyone else within the realm of Pakistan falls in the domain of these reforms. You will be receiving some of these slides in a bit. You have the presentation, which Arun would be sharing at the end of the session. Plus, we have the 4 original ordinances through which the tax reforms and the ordinance tax reform and the amnesty package has been promulgated. So let's begin with today's session. Okay. First things first, I would like you all to introduce yourself, but since that's not possible in this session, I'll just quickly begin with my intro. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Oh Allah, open my heart and ease my task for me and remove the impediments from my speech so that they may understand what I say. Some of you may already know me. Those of you who don't know me, just a quick intro. I'm basically a highly IT literate and experienced accounting, finance, management, and economics professional. I'm honored to be a fellow chartered certified accountant. I also hold other prestigious qualifications such as CFA anti-money laundering specialization, BSc honors in applied accounting, etc., etc. Along with a fund of 15 years plus experience gained by working both in abroad as well as in Pakistan. I'm honored to have received the Exceptional Public Value Award for 2 years running and the National Advocacy Awards by ACCA. I'm a member of the Global Tax Forum and chairing the ACCA's Pakistan Taxation Committee. Well, needless to say, being recognized as an expert having top expertise in the taxation field. Currently, I'm the managing partner, corporate services at Millennium Law and Corporate Company, which also happens to be the ACCA practicing firm, actually the pioneer taxation practicing firm in Pakistan. And I also sit on the board of some of the corporate entities. As far as training is concerned, I'm honored to have on my portfolio having conducted training in prestigious institutions in corporate, public, and academic sector. My portfolio includes having conducted mandatory promotional trainings of government officers at MPTD, professional trainings at National Bank, HBL, MCB, Lahore Tax Bar, Pakistan Tax Bar, Karachi, Lahore Chamber. Needless to say, our very own ACCA, as well as conducting the professional programs at Bahria University, UET, etc. For those of you who do like to read, I'm a regular contributor to various national and international publications like Dawn, Daily Times, Pakistan Today, Express Tribune, and research journals such as Blue Chip. I'm also a life member and 4-time serving chairman liaison committee of Lahore Tax Bar, a member of the ACCA's National MNP, served on the Finance, Economy and Taxation Committee of LCCIN, advisor to several parliamentarians on taxation and economic affairs. In addition, I also serve as a director on several think tanks. Some of the more renowned ones are Millet Thinkers Forum, Hamdard Thinkers Forum, and professionally associated with several professional associations like our very own ACCA and other professional bodies. These are some of the major clients and associations we have worked with previously, and I would just skip the rest of the intro as you would have the presentation, and it's just a listing of major academic professional qualification and strengths. Just a quick professional acknowledgement. Several researches and other reports of various international and national bodies, including State Bank of Pakistan, National Bank, Finance Ministry, financial institutions, some research report by our own firm, Millennium Law and Corporate Company on the subject have been utilized in the development of this presentation. We have a limited time, 2 hours today, 2 hours tomorrow, including the question answer session. And this is a topic which can be expanded as much as we like. So due to the limited time and the volume of the topic, we have tried to cover almost all the key areas in the maximum possible detail. The content coverage, however, had to be prioritized. So we have designed the presentation in a way so that you can gain the maximum knowledge as per the requirements of this session. So now that we are done with the intro, let's begin with the session's topic index. We will begin today's session by introducing the reforms package and amnesty announced by the Prime Minister of Pakistan. By the way, there is a common perception that this perhaps is just for Pakistan. Obviously, it is just for Pakistan, but it has regional as well as global implications. How come? The implications in the context of CPEC, the implications for those abroad, the investors wanting to come into Pakistan, etc., etc. So since we live in a global village and with the era of CPEC connecting the region's trade and economy, everything does have an impact on the region and the global stage as well. We will be discussing that hopefully in tomorrow's session once we are done with all the technical stuff. Once the introduction and highlights are done, we would then proceed on to the actual local declaration of domestic assets ordinance 2018. We'll move on to the foreign assets declaration and repatriation ordinance 2018. Then we'll move on to economic reforms amendment ordinance 2018, which might at least partially be tomorrow. And we'll then conclude with the income tax amendment ordinance 2018. Question answer session is listed separately, but we'll be having question and answers in between regularly. Okay, so let's begin. As you all know, this tax reforms package was announced by the Prime Minister of Pakistan on 5th of April 2018, and it has been promulgated through 4 different presidential ordinances, which were promulgated on 8th of April 2018. These package, depending on which area you are talking about, are active from either 10th of April or the 1st of July of this year. Mostly the focus has been on the amnesty scheme declared by the government. But it's not just about the amnesty scheme. Actually, this entire package had 2 separate parts, which can be bifurcated and analyzed. The first one is about the taxation reforms, which basically are focused on broadening the tax base, hopefully ensuring that we have as much economy documented as realistically possible. And then we have an economic taxation amnesty scheme. The 4 ordinances that we discussed have been listed in the topic list, and we would be covering these actual ordinances one by one in our sessions today and tomorrow. All these 4 ordinances have been shared with you in the handout section. If you just look at the panel, I think one of them has been shared and the remaining will be shared soon as we proceed through our session today. So let's start by discussing about the tax reforms. What are the major highlights of the tax reforms that have been announced? First things first, the one that most of us are pretty excited about on an individual level, since it would result in material tax savings for many of us, is the significant reduction in the tax rates for individuals. Now remember, this is a reduction not for salaried individuals, for all individuals. So what does that mean? It means any individual, including the businesses operating as individuals, would fall under this category. Now, this is very interesting because the highest tax rate is now only 15% compared to the high 30s that we have been experiencing for several years. There has been some criticism of this move, claiming that about 5 to 7 lakh taxpayers would be taken out of the tax net. However, the government on its part claimed that this move can't be viewed in isolation. You have to see the potential impact on the economy as well as the documentation effort. The expectation is that as a result of this and other moves that we will discuss in a bit, the tax registered, in fact, the filer base would grow from a meager 1.2 million, to be precise, 12 lakh 50,000 something, to the government is hoping 10 million. Now that's a pretty large figure. Now that's a pretty large figure. And if that goal is actually achieved, this would be a historic achievement because that has been actually a dream for the past several years. Can you hear me? Okay. So the next bit is about the foreign remittance. Section 111, which was actually promulgated through Economic Reform Act 1992, has been a bone of contention between various financial analysts, the professionals, economists, and the policymakers. On one hand, there's no doubt that foreign exchange is extremely important for any country, and more so for Pakistan, considering the huge current account deficit. At the moment, you all know that just recently we finally registered a growth of roughly 24% in exports as per the finance minister after several years of decrease in our exports. So it is very vital that Pakistan do receive the foreign exchange necessary to make payments. And if you view that in the light of the fact that there is an ongoing current account deficit, which is ever increasing, the importance of that cannot be lost on you. However, what Section 111 used to do was that anybody sending remittance through a bank channel. Now, do remember the difference between remittance and foreign income. If you don't recall that or you haven't attended the sessions previously, please refer to our older session on filing income tax returns and income tax ordinances. They are all available on ACC's channel on YouTube and Vimeo, and you can get all the details about that there. So coming back to the topic we are discussing, what Section 111 did was, it basically gave a blanket amnesty that anybody sending remittance through banking channel to Pakistan, which is not declared as a foreign income, but is solely a foreign remittance, and it is wide through banking channels. Then there would be no question asked. They do not need to provide any money trail, and there would be a 0% tax on that. There have been concerns that this particular area might be benefiting businesses or individuals who have been evading taxation or being involved in measures which are not as per or within the ambit of the law. However, on its part, the policymakers used to argue and point towards the necessity of having necessary foreign exchange for Pakistan. Most of the professional accountants, various accounting bodies, chambers have been advocating, not really chambers, but rest of them have been advocating for abolishing Section 111. However, the policymakers were really reluctant, pointing out that this might result in a serious shortfall of foreign exchange and a further worsening current account deficit. ACCA, about a couple of years ago, and I was honored to propose that in my capacity as the chair of the ACCA taxation community, we gave a middle ground, a proposal which has finally been implemented by the government. What we proposed was a middle ground addressing both the issues. Okay, the foreign exchange is vital for the country, no problem. However, yeah, you want to incentivize that, you don't want to tax that, no problem. But you do want to close the loophole that people or businesses should not use that to evade taxation or other I would say less than legal, or if I may be frank, illegitimate activities, money laundering, etc. So as a result of that, what we proposed was this middle ground, that why don't we have a slight amendment where people sending remittance to Pakistan still enjoy the same tax-free status, initially at least. However, they are asked about the source, or they can be asked about the source. So money trail will be established, and it would then be clarified that this is actually a genuine remittance and not some business income or money laundered income or some other transaction construed in order to evade the taxation. So what government has done is very close to that. They have now made the amendment in section 111 of the income tax ordinance, where undeclared or concealed foreign assets and foreign income can be taxed in any year they are discovered, and there is no time bar. Generally, in income tax ordinance, there has been a time bar of 5 years in various sections, but now this section has been amended and without any time bar. So this is a major step forward. Immunity from probe in respect of foreign currency remitted to Pakistan has now been restricted to $100,000 in a tax year. So our proposal has been taken and been implemented in a phased manner. So what they have done now is, if somebody would be remitting up to $100,000 in Pakistan, same thing as before, no question asked, no taxation. Anything more than $100,000 to Pakistan, no taxation, but questions will be asked. So big fishes would find it harder to use this particular provision for certain endeavors that were used in the past. Another tax reform, in fact, there is a plethora of taxation reforms which are aimed at broadening of tax base and documentation of the economy. First of all, every resident Pakistani having foreign income equal to or more than $10,000 or foreign assets of $100,000 or more would now be required to file declaration and declare them under the newly inserted section 116A of the Income Tax Ordinance 2001. The question, what if they don't do that? Well, there are penalty clauses now for non-compliance. We would be going through these clauses and these relevant provisions in detail when we go through these ordinances one by one. This is just a quick overview, the highlight to give you a taste of what actually happened. And do remember, most of these things have been enacted, these measures have been enacted through these 4 ordinances. However, some of them will only be enacted through budgets, such as that all NTN holders will now be required to file income tax return. What does that mean? That means your driver driving your car, who you've been paying the salary in cash and never filed a return, if, as the PM announced, this measure does become a part of the budget proposal and then get approved and become part of the Finance Act, he will also need to file the return. Maybe the maid coming to your house, who is cleaning your house, never filed the return, getting the salary in cash, would need to file the return. That should give rise to the question, how would these people be able to file that? That basically comes in with another of ACCA's budget proposals, that for ease of doing business and facilitating the taxpayer, the returns should be made as easier as possible, and help desk should be set up. And that is an area where ACCA has extended its services to the various revenue authorities, including the FBR as well. So the policy of differential tax treatments for filers and non-filers will continue. Plus, 2 major prohibitions have been announced regarding non-filers. Number 1, and this is already a part of the ordinance, so this has been implemented. Currently, and since 10th of April, any non-filer Pakistani is not able to deposit any cash in their foreign currency account. So practically, the operation of foreign currency account for non-filers and opening of new foreign currency account for non-filer is going off limit. In fact, has gone off limit. There is also a prohibition on non-filers regarding buying property in Pakistan. So from henceforth, only filers would be able to buy property in Pakistan. And the argument behind that actually is rational in the sense that it claims if you do not have any taxable income, why would you be buying any property? And if you are buying a property, maybe somebody gifted you, then you should declare that income, file your returns, get the economy documented. So there can be different opinions about these measures, but remember, there is nothing perfect. So you have to weigh the pros and cons. And likely looking at the aims of broadening the tax base and documented the economy, most of these reforms actually seem to be going in towards a positive direction in order to achieve these goals. So this brings us to the second part of the package after the taxation reforms, the amnesty. So basically what happened was a window of just under 3 months was announced from 10th of April to 30th of June for Pakistanis to whiten their concealed or undeclared local and foreign assets at extremely low rates of 2 to 5%, depending on the categories and the location of the assets. For all, this is something I'm sure you must have heard, but perhaps not many of you would have realized its full implications, that this is for all Pakistani nationals except politically exposed persons. So what does this mean? This means that when we talk about Section 111 or the other amendments where you have to file the returns, if you have a certain foreign income or foreign assets, you have to file the declaration. If you don't file that, you would be penalized. One loophole that's been left in the ordinances is that this is not applicable to politically exposed person. So just like on the one hand, they can't benefit from these, on the other hand, they can't be penalized under these because it's just not applicable on them. So perhaps that the other portion about the penalty and making sure that they file the declaration is something which should be looked upon and improved, hopefully during the budget exercise and the financing that would come from that. So separate packages have been announced and separate ordinances have been promulgated for domestic and foreign assets, and different rates for various categories such as assets that would be repatriated back to Pakistan and those foreign assets which would just be declared and not brought back to Pakistan have been announced. So this brings us to the first of the ordinances, the Local Declaration of Domestic Assets Ordinance. You have this shared in your handout section. If you could just go to your handout section and click on the link, you would have it in front of you. Okay, that's fine. Okay, you would have the handouts available to you after the session. Meanwhile, just look at your screen and you'll be able to see them. So this is the first ordinance which is concerning the declaration of domestic assets. Can you all see this? Let me enlarge this further so you are able to see this easily. Can some of you let me know if this is readable to all of you? I believe it should be now at least. Okay, let's continue. So this is basically the usual jargon and legal requirement, the title, commencement, some of the definitions which are important, but most of which you would already be familiar with from your previous taxation sessions that have been conducted. For example, declarant is a person, declarant means a person making a declaration under Section 5. Now, as you have been taught before, you have to refer to Section 5 and see what declarations are covered here, and any person making these declaration under this ordinance would be a declarant. So subject to the provision of this ordinance, any person may make to the FPR by the due date specified in section 6, which is 30th of June 2018. As you can see on your screen, a declaration in respect of undisclosed income and domestic assets acquired before the commencement of this ordinance, which was when 10th of April 2018. Again, this is mentioned in section 6. So you can make a declaration of any income that was undisclosed and domestic assets which were in existence before 10th of April. And till when can you do that? 30th June 2018. So the value of the domestic asset should be as specified in section 10. So can I just come and say, okay, I have a car which is valued 10,000 rupees. No, I can't do that. I mean, you all know about the property thing that's been done, that whatever value you'll declare, government has the right in the first year to acquire that for more than 100% increase, and then second year a 75% increase, and third year onward a 50% increase. So okay, it makes sense with the property. Very hard to do that now. There's a threat the government might acquire that. What about the other assets? No, you can't do that. There are values that have been given to you, and you would have to follow these values. This is section 10, where the valuation is given. Undisclosed income, as you have declared, and you would have the evidence of that. Open plots and lands, cost of acquisition, or FPR rates, whichever is higher. So if you are declaring that at a cost which is even lower than the FPR rates which are in existence at the moment, then the higher one would prevail. Now the question here should be, Sir Umar, I remember the PM said something about the FPR rates would no longer be in existence. It would only be market value. So isn't this confusing? Yes, it is. What happened? The FPR rates would no longer be in existence for the advanced taxation on property. What happens at the moment is when you buy or sell a property, you have to pay the advance tax, and that advance income tax is collected by FPR on behalf of the government, and that is based on FPR values. So with regard to that, the FPR value is being done away with. And the CVT and the provincial duties you have to pay, the provinces are being recommended by the Federation that they should also do away with the DC value and let the taxpayer declare whatever value they deem is the market value. No question asked, only one caveat. The government can buy it at 100% higher. So if you are under declaring, you are putting your property at a risk. But that is regarding those moves, and that would be a part of the Budget and Finance Act and everything. This is about the amnesty. This is a different thing than those proposals. So in your head, you should be able to understand this difference. So when we are discussing about the amnesty with regard to the domestic asset, for open plots and lands, it would still be the cost of acquisition or FPR rates, whichever is higher.
Can I ask a question?
Ask a question? Yes, you can. Write it down when I'll let everyone ask the question. Okay. You can also. Superstructures at a fixed rate, rupees 400 per square foot, can be declared. Apartment and flats, again, cost of acquisition or provincial stamp duty rates, which are normally referred to as the DC rates, whichever is higher. So similarly, you have these values available of all the different kinds of assets. So if you have, let's say, imported motor vehicles, then it would be A minus B. A being the CIF value, the amount of all charges, duties, sales tax, fees, everything that you have paid and incurred till the registration of the imported vehicle, and B is simply a sum of 10% of the value for each successive year up to a maximum of 5 years, being the depreciation. So whatever the cost minus 10% for each year up to 5 years can be deducted, and at that value you have to declare your imported vehicle. Similarly, we have motor vehicles purchased from manufacturers, used vehicles, securities and shares, day and price of the share or security quoted on a registered stock exchange as on the 9th of April 2018, and where no day and price of such share or security is quoted on stock exchange on the 9th April, day and price of the share or security quoted on a date near to the 9th April 2018. Now, why can't it be 10th April? 10 अप्रैल की वैल्यू क्यों नहीं डिक्लेयर हो सकती है? मैं आपसे पूछूं, बताइए.
Sorry, I was busy writing the question.
Achha, no problem. Okay, all of you, can anyone answer? ये shares और securities के लिए हमने पढ़ा कि stock exchange पे 9 तारीख या अगर 9 तारीख को उसकी कोई वैल्यू किसी वजह से लिस्ट नहीं हुई तो उससे क्लोजेस्ट जिस डेट को वैल्यू लिस्टेड थी उस पे आपको डिक्लेयर करना होगा. 10 तारीख की वैल्यू पे क्यों नहीं डिक्लेयर आप कर सकते? Anyone? I won't take your name. Just give me the answers. We'll have the comments here, right?
Yes, people are saying scheme applicable date because its year end is different. Because its applicability may be book closure date.
Nothing to do with the year end. If you remember just a moment ago when we were going through the initial intro of the ordinance, it said it would be for assets and income prior to 10 April. Prior to 10 April. So 10 April onward doesn't count. Similarly, that's a legal principle. It's called a rule of constancy. You have to be consistent in the law that you are promulgating. So if it has to be before 10th of April, then the value has to also come from before 10th of April. So now we know shares and securities can only be declared on the listed price for the securities being traded as of 9th of April 2018 or the date closest to that. Then what about securities not traded on stock exchange? Well, the breakup value or the face value, whichever is the higher. Then national savings schemes, postal certificates, bearer bonds, capital instruments, face value. Gold, flat rate, rupees 4,000 per gram, however much you want to declare. Other precious stones, metals, maybe silver, diamond, whatever, the market rate as on the 9th of April 2018, or if that was less than your cost of acquisition, then your cost of acquisition. Stock and trade, again, market rate as of 9th of April 2018. So the reason to run you through this was so that you have an idea that you can't just think of a price, okay, I want to declare it on this and do that. You are being bound within the legal bounds, what you can use and cannot use acceptable values for declaration under this amnesty scheme. Fair enough, but there is a separate ordinance dealing with the foreign assets. So what are these domestic assets? Domestic asset mean assets of every kind other than foreign assets under the Foreign Assets Declaration and Repatriation Ordinance. So we'll be going through the Foreign Assets Ordinance in a bit. So whatever does not fall under that is your domestic asset. We will read the legal definition, but to make it very simple for you, any asset which is not abroad, is based in the country, is your domestic asset. Holder of public office means a person who is or has been at any time since 1st day of January 2000, President, Prime Minister, Chairman, Senate, parliamentarians, ministers, etc., etc. Chief Justices, Chairman, Mayor. So basically anybody with any kind of political clout is outside the ambit of this. On one hand, they can't avail the benefits of this. On the other hand, they can't be penalized under this. So all other words and expressions used but not defined under this ordinance shall have the same meaning assigned to them under the income tax ordinance. This is just for the sake of completion, that any other term which is not defined under this small ordinance would have the same meaning as in the income tax ordinance. So you can't say there is a lacuna left and there is basically no definition provided for something. Ordinance to override other laws. The provision of this ordinance shall have effect notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in any other law for the time being in force. Now that is really interesting. What happens is that while the law ministry works very hard to ensure all the possible laws are amended, like in this case 4 ordinances were promulgated, 2 basically had the impact of amending the existing ordinances. The Economic Reform Act of 1992 and the Income Tax Ordinance of 2000 were basically amended. 2 new ordinances were promulgated, but there is always a chance something might slip through. So this thing is put through to ensure that legally this is clear, that the intention is that this ordinance would take supremacy and would supersede anything conflictory in any other section or area of law. So the application is to every person, association of person, and all citizens of Pakistan, wherever they may be, except holders of public office, their spouses, and dependent children. So if it's not applicable on them, they can't be held accountable under this either. So neither can they benefit from this, nor can they be penalized under this. Undisclosed income, and this is basically applicable to undisclosed income and domestic assets held by the persons mentioned above, which is every company, association of person, and all citizens of Pakistan except the politically exposed person, the public office holders, where proceedings are pending, except where proceedings are pending in any court of law in respect of domestic asset. So there is an exception for any assets that are under judicial review, or for any case in which there is the matter is sub judice. You can't claim amnesty under this. What if you want to do that? You have to withdraw the legal proceedings, ensure that with the counterparty, FPR most likely in these cases, and then you should be able to avail this. The provisions of this ordinance shall not apply to any proceeds or assets that are involved in or derived from the commission of a criminal offense. So if this can be proved that there was a criminal activity due to which these proceeds were generated, then again, you can't claim amnesty under this ordinance. We were covering Section 5 when we went to Section 10, and we have discussed that the declaration can be within the date, the time period of applicability, as we have covered in Section 6, and the value should be as declared in Section 10. The description, value, and tax paid in respect of the undisclosed income and domestic assets declared in subsection 1 shall be in the manner as set out in Form A of the schedule to this ordinance. Let's have a quick look at Form A. Just before that, the declaration of undisclosed income and domestic assets shall be made in the manner as set out in Form A of the schedule to this ordinance electronically on FPR's web portal, and shall be valid only if it is accompanied by the evidence of the payment of tax. So on FPR's website, for those who are already registered, you have this provision available. For those who are not registered, there's still the link you can follow. Maybe we'll hold another session on showing you practicalities of how you can actually claim the amnesty for yourselves or your client. However, this is Form A. This is the form on which you have to make the declaration, your particulars, contact details, value as per Section 10 of whichever assets are applicable to you, and then whether you have attached the evidence of the tax payment and what tax rate was applicable and how much tax you have paid. And then you have to sign this affidavit where you are declaring that the information you have given is to the best of your knowledge and belief. So we have pretty much largely covered this ordinance, bearing a few things. The charge of tax, at what rate the tax would be charged for the domestic assets. So the domestic assets declared within the due date shall be chargeable at 2%, where the foreign currency held in a foreign currency account in Pakistan as on the 31st March 2018 and in cash in equivalent rupees. So now the requirement is that the foreign currency account should have been held in Pakistan. If it was not in Pakistan, then that would fall under the definition of foreign assets. It doesn't matter it's foreign currency. What matters is the location. It's based in Pakistan. So foreign currency account in Pakistan is your domestic asset. And as on 31st March 2018, and the requirement is that it was encashed in equivalent rupees. If you haven't encashed it, you are not fulfilling the requirement. Then foreign currency held in a foreign currency account in Pakistan as on 31st March 2018, which is invested in government securities up to 5 years in US dollar denominated bonds with 6 monthly profit. This is another interesting option that what you can do is you can actually invest that money in the government securities for 5 years where you'll get a return of 3% with 6 monthly payment, biannual payment. However, you would not be able to withdraw that before 1 year. And for any other domestic assets, there is a plain, simple fixed rate of 5%. Payment of tax, the due date is maximum 30th of June, which is made clear under section 6. No tax shall be payable by the declarant under any law for the time being in force, including the income tax ordinance, where tax has been paid under subsection 1 in respect of the foreign assets declared under section 5. So complete amnesty for any and all other taxes. You can't be taxed on 30% for all the income you generated from the businesses or 35%. You just have to pay 2% or 5% and you are legitimate. So there you go. Incorporation in books of account. Okay, so far so good. So you have availed the amnesty, you have paid the taxes, the money has been whitened, any irregularities and illegalities have been fixed as per the law. How to incorporate that in your books now? Let's see. Where declarant has paid the tax, as we have discussed under section 8, in respect of undisclosed income and domestic assets. And please, by the way, this is just ending in a couple of minutes. So keep your questions ready. In fact, start shooting them so we have them, and then I'll try to answer them one by one. So in respect of the undisclosed income and domestic assets declared under section 5, the declarant shall be entitled to incorporate them in the books of accounts as his or her domestic assets. For the purpose of income tax ordinance, the cost of acquisition of domestic assets and date of acquisition shall deem to be the value declared under subsection 2 of section 5 and the date on which the declaration is made. So whatever you are declaring and on the date you are declaring, henceforth, that would be the basis for all the other laws, including income tax ordinance. Valuation, we have already covered this section, and this is very important. Confidentiality. It says, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 3 of section 216 of Income Tax Ordinance, the Right of Access to Information Act, and any other law for the time being in force, particulars of any person making a declaration under this ordinance or any information received in any declaration made under this ordinance shall be confidential. So in plain English for you, nobody can know about the people who claim this amnesty. Nobody can. Not under Right to Information Act, not under any other law. Complete confidentiality. A person who discloses any particulars in contravention of subsection 1 shall commit an offence punishable on conviction with a fine of not less than 500,000 rupees, but not exceeding 1 million rupees, or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 year or more. And if someone does that, if you announce to someone that your client claimed this and that becomes public knowledge, you can be fined between 5 to 10 lakh, or you can face an imprisonment term of 1 year, or even both. Having said that, I am aware that there are several parties who have prepared their petitions, and this particular clause in coming days will be challenged on the basis of in conflict with certain rights of the citizen, including right to information. However, as of right now, this is the law and this is how it stands. So you should be aware of the potential dynamics as well as the current position. Declaration not admissible in the evidence, notwithstanding anything contained in any or other law for the time being in force. Nothing contained in any declaration and made under Section 5 shall be admissible in evidence against the declarant for the purpose of any proceedings related to imposition of penalty or purposes of prosecution under any law. So again, another blanket amnesty. Anything you are declaring under this law cannot be held as an evidence against you under any proceedings. Done and dusted. Removal of difficulty. If any difficulty arises in giving effect to the provisions of this ordinance, the federal government may make such order in writing as is not consistent with the provisions of this ordinance. For removal of such difficulty, last but not the least, misrepresentation. Where declaration has been made by misrepresentation or suppression of facts, such declaration shall be void and shall be deemed never to have been made under this ordinance. But if you think about this, it raises a very interesting question. Nobody can know about the person under this ordinance, right? Nobody can have that information. That cannot be presented in a court of law. That cannot be investigated. So maybe one fine day somebody would come and say, hi, I actually misdeclared. How else would you know this was a misdeclaration? Anyway, that is something food for thought for you to think about, but this is their part of the law. So legally speaking, don't make any misdeclaration or that would be null and void. So we are done with the local declaration local declaration of domestic assets ordinance 2018. And before we proceed on to the second most important part, the foreign assets declaration and repatriation ordinance 2018, let's have some questions. And I would request my host to announce his name to you.
My name is Khayyamul Rodi and I am an SAC affiliate.
Mashallah, Khayyam is assisting us in these sessions now. So thank you, Khayyam. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have lots of questions here. Tasleem asking if one sent over $100,000 in tax year, that will be taxed on applicable rates?
Naseem, you said.
Tasleem.
Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, the next section we are covering is about to cover these, the next three ordinances. But since you have raised this question, I'll quickly answer that. Up to $100,000, no question asked. Go, enjoy. Next.
Rehan, what if a non-resident Pakistani sends a remittance from overseas to a foreign currency account holder in Pakistan who is a resident Pakistani? Is that allowed?
Yes, that is allowed. No issues with that. However, if you are sending that to a foreign currency account, you might have to pay the taxes. There are certain requirements of Section 111 which have to be fulfilled, like using the banking channel, paying in foreign currency, that being converted into rupee. Basically, the essence is giving the government the benefit of the foreign exchange. So if those requirements are not met, there's still no prohibition. You can send the foreign exchange, but you might not be able to avail the tax-free status. Next.
Okay, Furqan asking from when new salary tax slab will be applicable?
1st of July 2018. So hurrah, enjoy Furqan. First 1.2 million tax-free.
Okay, please explain why all Indians are required to file income tax return annually. Muhammad Hassan.
Hassan, the PM during his speech while declaring these reforms mentioned that this is one of the key reforms and that it would be included in the budget. So once that's included in the budget, it would become law and everyone would be required to follow the law.
Okay, under the income tax ordinance.
Hang on. In fact, let me just clear you. For almost past 2 years, this is actually already part of the law. It's just not been properly implemented. As per the current income tax ordinance and the last Finance Act, all CNICs are deemed to be NTA. The FPR just didn't had the system and the capacity to enforce that. But with the increased impetus on that, increased focus on that, and it being re-announced in the upcoming budget, we are hoping to see much more concrete actions. And in a way, that would be good. I mean, if the economy is documented, and then the taxation system is improved, the structural improvements are made, and taxpayer is facilitated, then perhaps we can address some of the common problems that are faced by us. Next.
Okay, under the Income Tax Ordinance Amendment, Ordinance 2018, first schedule, Part 1, Division 1, point 3 is not going to be effective, going to be void, since this appeals to only persons whose income does not exceed PKR 1 million, whereas now minimum taxable income is rupees 1.2 million. There should be no maximum limit to this clause to benefit the disabled and elderly.
Well, that's a different argument whether it should be there or not. Well, the reference there is about the income, not the taxable income. So you have to read that. You are assuming income means taxable income. No, it does not. It's just an income. What we are expecting is that a corresponding change, hopefully, should be made in the relevant sections, including the one that you just mentioned during the budget process, and become a part of the Finance Act. But till that is done, we have to follow what's in promulgation at the moment. So till 30th of June, you will continue to pay the 0.3% tax as usual, and from 1st July onward, you would know the status, what that would be after the budget on 27th and the subsequent approval by the Assembly and it becoming the Finance Act.
If a company has already declared assets of rupees 100 million in a company, however, purchased from non-declared money, if company avails tax and amnesty at 5% to widen these assets, what could be its accounting entry? It is assumed that assets were purchased from this money, whether that amount of other income of rupees 100 million will be taxed again at year end or exempted at the time of tax computation.
You would just have to pay one-time tax. We have just run through the entire ordinance. I believe your question was answered, but since you have asked, I'll answer that. It would only be taxed at the rate applicable when you are availing the amnesty, no tax again. One thing. Second thing, what would be the accounting entry? Seriously, come on, you're a qualified accountant. Khyam, what would be the accounting entry?
I think it would be around debiting the source of income.
Yeah, you would debit the cash or the assets and you would credit it as a capital. Simple. Next.
Kindly define politically exposed person.
Politically exposed person is a term that we commonly use in the banking and finance sector to refer to anyone who is who has some kind of political influence. Maybe they hold a public office or are their spouses or their dependents, anybody who has the muscle to politically exert some influence. And basically, since they are explained and covered in this ordinance, as we read, that this is not applicable to people who basically had public office in any capacity and their spouses and dependents. So we use the term which covers all of them, politically exposed persons.
Companies should fill this declaration to, I don't know how this comes to a question, but we ask companies should fill this declaration to.
Companies should fill this declaration to. I believe what he's trying to ask is whether companies can also avail this amnesty. Let me show you what we just covered. Just a moment. What happened to this? Here, This one. Application. So this is applicable to every company, association of persons, and all citizens except politically exposed person. So if a company want to avail that, it can. Is every company bound to do that? Obviously not. It's an optional thing. If you have something like this, a non-compliance in the past, and you want to avail now, you can. Next.
Can I ask my own question?
Oh, please, I was waiting for that.
Okay. As I get from your previous discussion,
This is your question?
Yes, okay. One question that having said the previous discussion, we were discussing on slab rates or value table. What I get from that, I get advanced tax that were computed on FPR benchmark rate on properties or plots have abolished now. But for the purposes of valuation,
Not now.
in this
Not
amnesty,
now. Not now. Let me correct you here. Advanced taxes will be abolished, except for, won't be abolished, the FPR rates would be abolished there, and there would be a singular 1% rate on whatever value you declare from 1st of July. That hasn't happened yet. That will happen from 1st of July.
But
This amnesty has happened.
But in the table there have written FPR rate as well. Consideration value or
FPR rate,
or FPR rate,
whichever is higher. I didn't answer that. Did you leave the room there?
I didn't get that point. That's why.
Basically, with regard to this amnesty, if you are declaring a property, that has to be the higher of your cost of acquisition or FPR rates. Because at the moment FPR rates exist, this amnesty is till 30th June, right?
Yes.
And when will be FPR rates be abolished?
From
1st of July. And what is the activation period for this amnesty? 30th June. So FPR rates are active till the period of this amnesty. It is a funny thing, you know, it's very ironic that on one hand we are planning to abolish that, on the other hand in the amnesty we have allowed that to be used. But since that is the law, we have to follow. Yes, this is something that really comes out as very unusual, but unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective, it is part of the law. Perhaps it is furthermore to incentivize people to declare under this amnesty that they don't really have to even declare on the market value at the moment. At the moment, they can use the FPR value as well.
Clear.
And any more questions?
We have lots of questions.
Shoot.
Question asked by Rehan again, when an asset of, for example, rupees 10 million is declared under this amnesty scheme, what would be the effect of this in the annual income tax return and wealth reconciliation of the individual? Because closing wealth has to be reconciled with the income and expenses of current year. Do we have an option in annual income tax return that this asset increased due to amnesty scheme, since it is not due to an income?
Quite a question. And what's the name?
Rehan.
Rehan, thank you for taking time out to write such an elaborative question. Well, the return normally comes out around September, after the end of the tax year. So the tax return for this year hasn't even been released yet. So we don't know. But it is common sense and from experience that definitely there would be a provision to incorporate the values of the assets declared under this amnesty to be incorporated within your wealth statement. And the wealth tax has been abolished since ages, so there will be no additional tax on that. The problem of Section 111, black money, would have been addressed because it has been wide. And if you have declared some income under this, then I would believe that there should be a new insertion in the upcoming income tax return where that would be declared, that this income was declared, this tax was paid, but it wouldn't affect your rest of the calculations. Or it should only, maybe if they want to further incentivize, which I would doubt highly, considering FPR's resistance to some of the proposals, allow this to be incorporated within your tax-free limit. But I highly doubt that would be. So what I foresee is that these be allowed only as a declaration item within the annual declaration forms of the annual income tax return, along with the wealth statement that we'll see hopefully around August, September. Next.
So they're asking regarding property valuation, what if the cost of acquisition is higher than the FPR or DC value, but the amount to acquire has been paid in cash? I think FPR would only confirm costs which have been paid by a bank.
FPR wouldn't confirm anything. You just have to make a declaration. That's it. At the moment, they haven't announced any such thing that FPR would be cross-checking it or verifying it. There's no such thing at the moment. So whatever you are declaring, they are just taking your word for it. They are believing being an honest Samaritan and a good citizen, you would not lie. You made mistakes in the past. You are trying to rectify that, and you would not do that again.
Bona fide presumption.
Yeah.
Okay, this means was asking if I have expected to receive 35 crore in next 5 years, and don't want to disclose the source, but want to get benefit from the scheme. Can I? If yes, then how?
Yes, by availing the scheme. You don't have to disclose your source under the scheme. That is the thing. You're just paying the tax and it's fine. You don't have to tell the source. Next.
Assuming I have.
If you need further clarification about that, I'll be sharing my contact details at the end of it. Just shoot me an email.
Assuming I have an undisclosed 10 million Pakistani rupees, should I have pay only 2% tax, that is rupees 200,000 to State Bank of Pakistan mentioned account, or I have to remit the 10 to my bank account as well?
It depends how you have that, whether you have that in the form of cash with you, whether you have that in a foreign currency account, whether you have this sitting in some bank account in UAE. So the treatment would depend on that. As we have just covered here, if it's in a foreign currency account in Pakistan and in cash or invested in the government bonds, then the rate is 2%. Any other domestic assets, 5%. The foreign assets we'll cover in a bit. Next.
Adnan Rizvi, a person who purchased a property for rupees 50 million, say, however, he paid taxes on DC value of, say, rupees 10 million. Later, after the FPR value announcement is rupees 30 million, he widened it till peak at 30 million by paying 3% of the differential. Now, under this amnesty scheme, does he have to declare the transaction?
Yes, he can. He can declare the additional 20 million as the cost of acquisition. Just pay the appropriate tax rate and widen it.
At what amount does he have to make the payment?
It depends on what shape it is. I'm assuming in the shape of a property. So for all other assets, the rate is 5%.
There are news in the media, but Supreme Court may take some more notice on this scheme. If they took such notice, I don't think this scheme can stand its ground and will be declared null and void. The question is that in such scenario, how would the court treat the beneficiaries of the scheme?
And who's that?
Suhail Masood.
Suhail, you know you are asking $1 million advice free of cost on a live session streamed across the region and globe, and that is to be put on the YouTube. But I'm still gonna answer that. Well, you know, in point of law, it's hard to give you a straight 100% certain answer because it varies just from a judge to another. However, to null and void something ab initio, which has benefited some people at least, is a very tough legal precedent. There are certain constitutional provisions which give protection to certain acts. Can a court strike this down? Yes. What is a possibility? It depends on the judges hearing that. Can a court strike this down? Ab initio. Ab initio means since the beginning. So all the people who have availed would go out of it. Very difficult, very unlikely, because there would be serious ramifications with regard to the trust in the state of Pakistan, with regard to what to do with the funds that have been received, what to do with the evidence that have been received, uh, the shaking of the confidence in any future announcement by the government of Pakistan. I mean, yes, the court can say this is not right and you can't do it henceforth. That's it. But to say that wind it up from the earlier day would be a tougher proposition. However, in matters of law, you can't really rule out something, however less likely that may be. So read between the lines.
There are news in your media. Okay, again. Does the inherited agricultural and residential land have to be declared as well? Says Ahmed Hassan.
Yeah, you can declare that, and on agricultural property and income, there is no tax, so you can declare that even without using the amnesty. Yeah, I saved you a few millions. And for the other properties, industrial, residential, you can avail the amnesty as we just discussed.
If any individual providing services on up to about 10,000 fee, he had to pay 10% tax to FCR. It will affect the new scheme. If this will be affected in new scheme.
No. This is only for undeclared income. Any regular income you are paying for taxes on doesn't fall within the purview of this.
Okay, you mean public officers are not given this amnesty?
Yes, they are neither given this amnesty nor are they penalized under its clauses. They don't have to file the declaration that those availing this would have to.
But I have new clause that if they have been arrested by NAB or any such like authority, they can make voluntary declaration. That is allowed.
It's a different thing. Right now we are discussing this amnesty. And just as you saw in the applicability section, it clearly states this is applicable to all citizens of Pakistan, etc., except this. So this is called proviso. The proviso has been added to exclude them. When they are excluded from that bit of this, nothing contained herein is applicable on them. Either it's beneficial or it's penalizing. Both of them can't be applicable of them.
But I have a question in relation to that what about the transactions containing the element of like if government servant, but having said that, purchase the property in the name of his wife, Benami transactions. If she can avail the amnesty scheme?
Well, any politically exposed person and their dependents can't avail this as per the ordinance. But the question is this, what mechanism would be adopted? Because the information is confidential, it can't be shared with anyone. So who would actually decide whether she was wife of a politically exposed person? How would you know that? What is the mechanism? These are big question marks that haven't been made public. I mean, the law is there. How that would be implemented is a different question. So, good question.
Chances of tax audit to be open after filing return under amnesty scheme, or
well, as we have covered this, sorry to cut you short. I just got the question. As you have seen, while we covered this ordinance, there can be no prosecution and penalizations once you have availed this ordinance. So there can't be audit of what you have declared under this ordinance. There can be audit going forward in future. Obviously, you'll be earning more income, you'll be declaring more assets, but it won't be like you declared income under this and then they'll come and audit, not unless they make some changes to the law.
Kindly share the salary tax rates of all revised slabs as well.
We'll be sharing that, and we'll be sharing all these ordinances with you. Would they be getting that today or tomorrow?
These products they will be getting today. I will upload them on Google Doc link. I will share with them at the end of the session the Google Doc from where all the handouts, including other webinars, are available to them.
Fantastic. So you'll have this available by the end of day today.
Okay, if there is any amnesty for army widows, if they are having over and above this foreign income benchmark.
Not just foreign, domestic income as well. This is applicable to all. So army widows are also included. But army widows do have some exceptional treatments in various laws. So if you are an army widow, I would suggest to check with a professional first regarding your options in light of your particular circumstances. You might don't even need to avail this amnesty. Anyway, to answer your question, is this available for army widows? Yes, it is.
When a person is employed by overseas company but working from Pakistan and salary is transferred by associate office in Pakistan, person is resident and not filed tax return in the past. Can he declare his salary income from previous years under the ordinance?
Yes.
Under what rate?
Yes.
Muhammad Zafar.
Same rates as we have seen. Yes, you can declare. No issues.
Once all undeclared money is returned, how much will be charged on those assets afterwards?
We have covered these rates. I think these questions came before. Any currency you are holding in a foreign currency account that is encashed in Pak rupee or invested in the government bonds will be taxed under this amnesty at just 2%. Any other assets at 5%. Full stop.
Okay, a person residing in Australia and have his taxed money, salary money, whether taxable in this new scheme?
Residing in Australia.
And have his taxed money.
No, as long as they are not sending that to Pakistan, buying assets here, stuff like that, they just need to make a declaration that this is the money they are earning. That's it. Plus, there are also double taxation treaties. Even they were to move to Pakistan or buy some assets here, etc., can also use that.
Please explain whether a politically exposed person and holder of public office are same.
Largely, but not entirely. Holder of public office is a politically exposed person, but a politically exposed person is not just the holder of the public office. A politically exposed person is the holder of the public office, their spouses, their children, basically any person who either themselves, by virtue of holding a public office, or by their relation, close relation to a public office holder, can exert undue political pressure or influence.
If the ordinance we just covered is an ordinance, why isn't it be considered a law?
Ordinance is law. You have two ways to enact the law. You either get it passed through the parliament and it becomes an act, or you get it promulgated by the president when the parliaments are not in session and it's called an ordinance. But the ordinance is also a law.
Okay, do we have to declare inherited agricultural or residential property? Okay.
Under the tax laws, yes, you have to. Can you do that under this amnesty? Of course you can. Do you need to for agricultural property? Not at all. There is no tax on that. Just declare that on your return. But there would be one question. Where did you get that from? If you can show from inheritance, no problem. Go through the normal route. If you don't have any source, then maybe you should consider this.
A person who have income from his business in Australia, UK, whether the both are taxable in the same way, Mohammed Suhail from Sabri.
Sabri sir, you have to expand your question. What's happening with that income? Is the person resident in Pakistan or abroad? Is the income coming to Pakistan or staying in those businesses offshore? If the person is resident in Pakistan, are they like some subsidiary of a Pakistani company? Or is there some company abroad which has basically several subsidiaries, one of them in Pakistan? because your specific circumstances will determine the treatment.
If anyone is dealing with cash transactions with no formal invoice, for example, maid salary, driver salary, or other services, how could FPR take them into accountability?
What do you mean by accountability? I mean, how can FPR audit that? Remember one thing, what you are paying to your mates, etc., is your personal expense. That is not a tax allowable expense. So you are not claiming it in any way. When you are going to your wealth statement and making your reconciliation, you are declaring these household expenses there, but you are not claiming any tax rebate on them. So ideally, you should give invoices to your mates, but if you are not doing that, that's not a problem as of now. But if the CNIC being NTN and all of them required to be filing the returns is actually implemented and enforced come 1st of July, then your mates will certainly need to file their returns. So you will have more business. You'll also be filing returns of your mates.
Both stands.
Maybe that would be part of the package. If you work with us, in addition to the salary, we'll file your income tax return for free. Next.
Okay. Both stands for salaried individual and business individual. Mohammed Suhail Akram Safi from that question, politically exposed and.
Oh yeah. Basically, the amnesty is for anyone. So, in terms of politically exposed person, it covers all the possibilities.
File a person availing tax amnesty
So,
scheme.
hang on, let me just clarify, Sabri. So, what this means is that if a politically exposed person has formed a company, they can't avail this amnesty in lieu of that. Okay, I'm availing this for the company, not myself. Well, if you are the controlling owner of the company, you are part of the company, you can't avail that.
Okay. File a person availing tax amnesty scheme will have to revise tax returns.
Filer person availing tax amnesty scheme will have to revise tax return.
Does SECP employees being autonomous body come under public office definition?
The definition here has been very elaborative. You would have this ordinance and you can go through this in detail. What you'll see here is that most of them are political offices, and SECP has not been outlined as such here. But go through them, see whichever institution you belong to, whether that has been listed here or not. I have run through most of them, the mayor, vice chairman, deputy mayor of Zilla Council, municipal committee, municipal corporation, metropolitan corporation, holding an office or post in the service of Pakistan or any service in connection with the affairs of federation or of a province or of a local body. So if you are directly in the service of government of Pakistan, you are a PEP. If you are the Chief Justice associated with judiciary, you are PEP. If you are a minister or a part of the government, you are PEP. If you are part of federal, provincial government, you are PEP. If you are part of a local government, you are PEP.
President,
Federal government.
Okay. What about foreign remittance which are not home remittance and earned through online businesses?
Well, that is not really foreign remittance legally. As per the law, this is foreign income. Now, I'm assuming that what you mean is that you've been declaring the foreign income as foreign remittance. So if you want to truly legalize that, you can avail the amnesty. However, if you have been bringing that as foreign remittance, then under section 111, you were not asked any questions and you can't be asked any questions. So, well, it's your call. Next.
If this abolishment will apply on capital gains, Shehbaz Mahmood.
Abolishment? Which abolishment?
FPR rates.
FPR rates. Yes, they have claimed that it would apply everywhere. It would have to be the market rates. But you'll have to wait for the post-budget process to see what transpires. And do remember, this will be effective from 1st of July, not immediately.
Two persons have their foreign money one has clean money while the other has black money, does this law apply on the same way to both? What will be the documentation requirement?
No, it doesn't apply to same because one who has clean legal money and has been paying his taxes, why would he need an amnesty? He or she has been paying taxes at 32%, 30%, 25%, whatever the applicable rate. They have been paying that taxes for decades and it's fine. It's basically for those people who have black money, who for whatever reason were not fulfilling their legal commitments. They have been given a chance to legalize their assets and income.
If this ordinance is not approved by Parliament, then what was the status of the persons who filed under this ordinance?
Look, I have explained this before. They are under the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. There are two ways of enacting laws. Number one, you get it approved through the Parliament, it becomes an act of the Parliament, it's law. Number two, when the Parliament is not in promulgation and the President is satisfied that it's necessary, you actually get that passed by the President, and there is a certain tenure after which, if you want to renew that, you get it either passed by the assemblies, parliament, or there's another way. Anyway, in this case, this is going to expire on 30th June, so it doesn't fall within that purview. No problem.
Just like we have companies ordinance, and since the applicability of Companies Act 2017, it has repeated now. Okay, if a person have not declared income before and now want to declare assets purchased from previous income, what will
the same thing that we have discussed? I believe you perhaps joined late. You'll fill out the form in annexure A that we saw. You'll deposit the applicable tax at either 2% or 5%. File that online with FPR. Be happy to go home.
If yes, then what about the money laundering clauses of State Bank of Pakistan? How would it explain in the context of AML CFT documentation?
A very good question. If you see, we have covered this in this ordinance. It has said that any proceeds which are crime proceeds would not have this the availability of this ordinance. So basically, that's the point that joins both of them. That under the AML or counter-terrorism and countering the financing of terrorism, all those laws, including the AML Act 2010, it's fine because you have covered that any illegal money cannot avail this amnesty. The question, however, is how would you practically determine that? Can you give a bell? आप एक सवाल पूछ लें.
Okay, if someone has a piece of land or plot in the name of his wife or sister who is a non-filer and do not have any other source of income, will there be any difficulty in sale of that plot? As you told that now a non-filer can have property after this amnesty scheme.
At the moment, the government has only said that non-filer will not be able to buy the property. Now, will they be able to sell the property or not will be more clear after the budget exercise. So I guess we'll have to wait for that.
Okay, we have another question. Is there any minimum or maximum threshold against which this amnesty scheme is applicable? Any supporting documents source to be provided to FPR as money from criminal activity cannot vital from this scheme? How FPR assess this?
And who asked this question?
Usman Yusuf.
Usman, a fantastic question. That's exactly what I was discussing with Khayam when he asked me one of his questions. That, look, let me in fact show you. So all of you would have a recap. This is the Form A, the declaration under Section 5. You give in your details, you point out which asset you are declaring and the value, and then you point out the total value, the tax at 5% or the tax at 2%. You point out whether you have attached the evidence of payment. You make a payment in the bank. Thank you, friend. Then you sign this declaration. That's it. It hasn't asked you for any other proof or evidence. So that's what we have been saying, that legally this ordinance has covered terrorism, anti-money laundering, all those provisions. But the question is, how would that be judged and implemented when you are not getting any evidence? mean, all you need to do is file these things, and then nobody can question, nobody can have the information. So the mechanism details are still being awaited. Next. And yeah, whether there is a maximum or a minimum limit, no, there are no limits.
If a person has not declared his income before and now want to declare assets purchased from the previously earned income, what will he do?
I've just answered that. Shyam, would you repeat what I answered? I think I've answered this question 5 times. Let me do it the 6th time for you. You will simply make the declaration as per this form. You'll pay the tax as per the applicable rate, 2% or 5%. You'll submit the CPR along with this signed form online. Done. That's it.
Someone has how much asset in value do you think people will declare by using this scheme based on your experience?
I have a very clear thought on that, but I was specifically requested by Harun to not share my thoughts on that.
Okay, I am living in Pakistan, earning money from US websites as freelancer. What is the tax treatment for this if I am exempted or not?
No, you are not exempted. You being in Pakistan earning money from abroad have to pay applicable taxes. Only provision can be if you are providing some software, something like that. So it really depends on what you are doing. I'm assuming you are a freelance writer or something like that, or maybe freelance accountancy services. If you are doing that, you are earning foreign income that's been brought back to Pakistan, and you need to pay applicable taxes on that. Next.
What is the treatment for income generated about? What is the treatment? Sorry, what is the treatment for income generated abroad through means that is deemed illegal in Pakistan, but legal abroad? How does this ordinance affect?
Well, this ordinance is basically giving you a chance to legalize any assets or income that were concealed, undeclared, or using the terminology you used were illegal. However, if you earn that through an illegal activity, the proceeds are from illegal activity, then this ordinance excludes any such proceeds.
If withholding tax imposed on the proceeds from the sale of the property, I think from such property, so hail no.
Yes, any property you have declared, you have whitened it, it's fine, you have whitened it now. When you'll be selling it, like the rest of the country, you'll be paying the advance income tax. That's do understand, this is the amnesty allowing you to whiten, allowing someone to whiten their undeclared income. Many people have been paying up to 30-35% taxes in the case of companies to accumulate those assets. You have been given a very attractive offer just to pay 2% or 5%. Instead of that, up to 35% that individual or companies have paid, and whiten it all. So you are getting a very good deal. And yes, that is now whitened. Henceforth, the applicable laws would be applicable on it.
I guess all undeclared money is illegal. What if the undeclared money is declared and later on it is discovered that it was earned from criminal activity?
Shabasa, if it's ever discovered that some money was earned through illegal activity, you can be prosecuted, you can be penalized, the amnesties can be withdrawn because it specifically excludes any such illegal activity. Yeah. And it specifically states here that any misrepresentation would render it null and void.
Okay. Does SCB employees being autonomous body against any? Okay. The question is, we are already being penalized.
Arun sir, need come join us. There was a question which we need your permission to answer.
If it is not a political answer,
I'll tell you the question, you tell me whether that can be answered or not. The question was by one fine gentleman, sir, in your professional experience and expertise, what do you think would be the result? How much money can be brought in by this scheme? I said, well, I have an opinion, but I cannot share that. I've specifically been requested by Harun sir not to. Very true. We have in ACC session, we try to discuss as many professional aspects as possible, but we have to be careful to avoid any political discussion. So inevitably, this question can thread towards that. So if you want to know that, just I'll be sharing my details. Send me an email. I'll answer you.
We can share facts in response. So, for example, response to such schemes in the past. What could be some of the factors because of which people may not, get hooked onto the scheme? Those factors. So, for example, confidence in the governance system in Pakistan, right? The time at which this scheme is being offered, and the change in government. And these are non-political factors, but they are definitely.
And the legal process,
the
news that this would be challenged. So all these things together, as well as the results of the past amnesty, should make it very clear to you what would be the fate of this one.
The question is, we are already being penalized for AML, CFT regulations. There is a recent penalty on HPL by US. How would the international stakeholder will see this?
Well, HPL's instance was a very different case. There were certain individual transactions which were pointed out, and HPL chose to pay the penalty rather than going through the legal process and defending it. Now, with regard to these ordinances, we have just covered this. It specifically states that any misdeclaration would render this void, and there are specific exclusion clauses for any illegal monies, including money laundering or proceeds from illegal activity. So legally, that is covered. Now, while there are international institutions which are concerned about these, you have to understand every country, every sovereign state has the right to legislate for their own country, and under the UN Charter cannot be dictated on that. So the wording of the ordinance are pretty much in line with the international laws. The only question that can be raised, however, is the implementation, which we discussed, that how would you know the proceeds are from criminal activities? If there is an effective process and that can be shared with those bodies, I don't see a reason for any trouble for Pakistan. However, if there are no such mechanisms, perhaps that's something that need to be worked on.
Can you please explain what is superstructure?
Superstructure, it's like any building you create means supersized building. Anything you create on top of the building. You have an existing building, you maybe add 2 floors to it.
And what would be the legal implications on Pakistan economy as we are already imperialist? Almost irrelevant.
Okay, with regard to that, if you are put on the blacklist, then there are economic sanctions which happen, which certainly have an economic impact. But whether, again, this ties in with the answer I just gave you. The ordinance is worded in a manner that it is legally covered. The only possibility could be about the practical implementation to ensure that no illegal money can avail this amnesty. If there are proper set of practical procedures, then there shouldn't be any problem. And do remember, it's not just Pakistan that has given this amnesty. Malaysia has given the similar amnesty. India has given a similar amnesty. Indonesia has given the similar amnesty. In fact, the Indonesian amnesty was actually one of the most successful ones. Reason being the structural tax reforms there, the confidence of the people there, they were able to bring quite a few $1 billion back in the country. India did, but because Indian rates were very high, 50% plus, not many people availed them. Their rate was 50%.
If one individual is not working in Pakistan, but he or she makes some property in Pakistan, so how he or she will become filer in Pakistan as he or she not working here but have some property which purchased previously.
So if he or she has a property here, then he or she would have the property in their name. They can use the documentation of the property to get registered for NTN. Once they get registered for NTN, they can start filing their nil returns. Filer just means you are filing the returns, nothing to do with actually paying any taxes.
Can I ask a question? So this term of becoming a filer, if an individual submits tax return for 1 year, can that individual be called a filer? Is the name included in the list of filers, or is it's 2 years a requirement?
Very, very good question. Basically, what happened is that a list is being made by FBR, which is updated on weekly basis. It's called ATL, Active Taxpayer List. So to go on the list, you just have to file the tax return for that tax year. However, what happens is, for example, there is a lag. Like our tax year would be ending on 30th June. We would have our return coming in September. And then we would start filing the return for the year. However, the ATL would at the moment be going on at that moment for the prior year. So to come on the ATL, you would need to file the return for that last year. Once that return filing process is completed, the deadline is passed, then the ATL for that year is released. And that is then updated on weekly basis. So the requirement is just to file for that 1 year you want to get on the ATL for, but because of the time lag, the structure of the tax years and the practicalities, you normally end up filing for 2 years if you haven't filed a return before, so that you can be on the ATL that is in operation at the moment, and you would be on the upcoming ATL. Good question.
If someone has already shown the wife's plot in his own previous tax returns as part of wealth statement, as wife is a housewife and do not have other source of income, does that wife also need to declare plot again or give tax on it?
No, the wife does not need to declare that again, but the question would arise whether the plot was in joint name or the wife's name. If it was in the wife's name, then you need to revise your return and make sure it's declared by the wife. Otherwise, transfer it to your name.
If someone avails this amnesty scheme, then will the assets declared under this scheme be taxed under normal tax rules next year, since now they are legalized?
My friend, wealth tax in Pakistan has been abolished for several years now. There's no tax on wealth. The taxation is on income. The reason this amnesty is there is that under the taxation laws, you can be asked to provide the source from which you accumulated the wealth. And if you can't provide that, you can be penalized with very heavy penalties and even in worst cases, imprisonment as well. That is why this amnesty has been brought in. Once you declare the wealth, there is no tax on the wealth itself.
Capital gain tax will be higher for filer as compared to person availing amnesty scheme, right?
There is no capital gain tax in amnesty. I'm assuming you are saying once you avail the amnesty and then later on you sell the property. Well, certainly, because there is this technical thing that here you'll be trying to declare it at as much higher price as possible, because that would eventually benefit you. When you'll sell the property, the capital gain would be lower and the tax applicable taxes would be lower. It makes sense. However, the people who registered their properties before, they did that on either the FPR values or if it was before that DC values, and those values certainly were much less than the market value. So yes, that angle is there. However, remember, there is an announcement that CGT might also get abolished. There might only be one tax left, a singular 1% advance income tax. So I would suggest wait for the budget announcement next week.
Under which head of income the tax under this scheme will be paid? Income tax of ITO 2001.
It doesn't fall within the context of ITO 2001. ITO 2001 has only been amended mostly vis-a-vis section 111 or insertion of some other section regarding that. You simply would pay the tax in income tax category like while choosing the CPR and deposit to FPR. I'm assuming you are trying to ask where you would declare that in the income tax return. This question has been answered before. Once the tax return is there, I'm assuming because the return hasn't been made public yet and it hasn't even been prepared yet, it would be after the end of the tax year. There would be some sort of declaration, mostly in wealth statement. I don't see this impacting the income tax calculations.
Can expenses of both capital or revenue nature can be claimed under this scheme by paying taxes? Capital nature building enhancements can be availed under
Well, you can do all that. You don't need to provide detail of the expenses to them. You just have to give the net figure of undisclosed income or the assets. So how you calculate that income is up to you. All questions? That's all? Bas? Khatam sawal. Good. Well done, Khayam. I think you asked close to a few dozen questions. Yeah. Okay. So we have two options. We have 12 minutes left. We can either go to the next ordinance or we can just have a poll and some more questions. I think that would be more rational rather than starting a new topic in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
some
let's
people
put
have
some poll
posted
questions.
their questions right away.
Mm-hmm.
Usman Yusuf asking again how non-filers are stopped from buying property in Pakistan.
Oh, that's been announced. That would be announced in the budget. And it's extremely simple how the filer non-filer rates were imposed. All the registering authority would be bound that they'll have to check the C and IC against the ATL. And if someone's name is not in ATL, by law, the property wouldn't be allowed to be registered in their name. Simple. No problem with that. The system is already in place. Don't you remember the filer non-filer differential rates in properties were implemented? How were they implemented? You had to pay that in advance before you actually got to register the property because every registering authority had to check individually the name against the ATL. If not, they were to be penalized. So the system is in place and it is coming, my friend. Be ready.
Can you repeat the point of government buying assets at 100% more than declared value?
We'll be covering that in tomorrow's session, but yeah, that's also part of one of the key reforms that's been announced by the government. The PM in the upcoming budget and Finance Act, they'll be adding the provision that FPR rates would be abolished and people can declare the property value from 1st July onward, whatever they like to, but the government would have the right to buy that property from them at 100% increase in first year. So for example, you buy a plot in DHA for maybe 4 crore and you declare that at 1 crore, then government can simply pay you 2 crore and take that from you. So what you'll need to do in the first year is at least declare that at 2 crore. Next.
If private limited company gets sales tax notice and company provide education consultancy, then if company did not register for sales tax, is there any issue?
It's a totally irrelevant question, and I normally don't answer irrelevant question. But since we have some time, I'll ask him. If he recommends, then I'll answer.
Yeah, you can answer.
I can answer. You have to recommend.
Discretion.
You are leaving the ball in my court again. Very clever. Okay. Extremely simple. You got a notice because the authority, whether it's provincial or federal, in your case, since you mentioned services, I believe it must be provincial. Provincial authority believe you should be registered. If you do not register, then depending on which province you are based in, Punjab, Sindh, KP, or Balochistan, they can follow their regulation, penalize you, impose a penalty on you, and still ensure you get registered. Do get registered. Even if you don't register, they can register you themselves in worst cases. The implementation is gaining ground in Sindh. It is still in early stages in Punjab and rest of the provinces.
Okay. question came to my mind as well. What if, having said that, going further, we will be having non-filers that they cannot be able to purchase the properties? What about those properties that they have already bought and they are going to sell it or exchange?
Shyam, that question was asked by one of the member, and I did answer that nothing has been said on this aspect. It could be that initially for the time being that has been left because changes are made in a phased manner, or if the policymakers are going for radical changes, they can ban that a non-filer cannot sell the property. However, no such announcement has been made to date.
Okay, one more clarity needed. Movable or immovable or both?
Immovable. When you are referring to these properties, you are referring to the immovable property. The movable property, that's fine.
Okay, we have another question from the puzzle. We are still waiting for your opinion on this whole ordinance. Will this be of any benefit to the economy of Pakistan? I think we have.
I think I have answered this. What's the name of the gentleman? Waleed Sab, look, first of all, what has been the track record of such amnesties in Pakistan and why? Is the public confidence there in the amnesty? Or are people scared that it may be struck down by the court of law? Is there enough traction to attract people towards this? Are the structural reforms being done so people would not feel uncomfortable by perceived or actual harassment by the tax operators? Are the subjective laws being reduced? Because do remember, once you avail the opportunity, you are in the tax net. So a person would also be thinking that going forward, I would have to deal with the tax authorities. All these things would have been weighed. Plus the timing of this, about 2.5 weeks before the budget and 1.5 months roughly before the end of the tenure of the incumbent government. So all these factors taken together doesn't show a very rosy picture, especially if you look at the track record of such amnesties. All these issues and even some more issues that were present in previous amnesties are still there. So is this a good opportunity for the intended people? Yes. Will they avail it? Possibly not.
If assets are declared in earlier tax years at less than actual cost of acquisition, can this scheme be used to value at actual cost?
Yes, it can be. And let me tell you, if certain reservations can be moved, this scheme can actually be used for the benefit of businesses. I mean, it's if you look from their perspective, it's a very good offer. Somebody who hasn't paid any tax and you, me, and all other have been paying 30, 35% or whatever the applicable rates, it's a very good deal for them. The thing is how it's been sold to them, whether sufficient confidence has been induced or not. And if the aim of improving the tax base, the filers can be achieved, then it may be worth it. Anyway, as I said, looking at the track record, one would highly doubt the chances of attaining the goals set by the policymakers. Yet we hope for the best and further improvements.
Being a salaried person, if tax deduction on different payments is more than my actual tax payable, how can I claim back extra tax deducted?
Apply for a refund with FBR.
Will normally tax department refund overpaid tax to salaried person?
The law says they should.
But they can also get adjustments in property buying and the tax paid.
Not against property buying. Practically, it's very hard to get refunds from FPR, especially if they are smaller amounts. It's not worth it. So normally people just carry forward to the next year and get it adjusted against their taxes from withholding taxes to be deducted from salary by intimating their employers.
questions. I think I must upload the handouts in
Sure,
front of them and
sure.
share the Google Doc link in front of them so that they can easily download.
Sure, please do. Meanwhile, I'll also share, as I promised, my contact details. We'll continue the session tomorrow, same time, 4 to 6. Tomorrow is Friday. We'll conclude with the remaining 2.5 ordinance. It's actually 3, but the third ordinance is like 1 pager. So I call it 2.5 ordinances. And do come after reading these ordinances so it can be of your benefit and you can ask any relevant questions. Thank you very much for sparing the time now. You will have the handouts being shared with you now. If you have any questions, we still have a couple of minutes left. Can you check the questions, Khayam?
Yeah, I can check the questions from the screens.
Thanks. Okay. Lower income tax rates discourage corporatization. Sayyid Ahmad Hassan Naqvi. Well, that's one view, Naqvi Sab. Another one is that for the corporate sector, there are many areas where you can't work without being in the corporate sector. There are certain licenses, there are certain tendering processes. So there is that argument that you are putting, but the other argument is to give incentive to the middle class so that they have more disposable income which can be spent in the economy, so there can be more economic activity. As I said, there is no right or wrong answer. You have to look at the specifics, weigh the pro and cons in lieu of your own circumstances and decide. How well statement will reflect the changes who are availing the scheme. Simply add on the new assets that's been added. Um, Thanks. Will you please email the hands out? Yeah, Makhtoom, they will be shared and I think the links would be emailed to you.
We will be sharing the link right away in a bit because I will be uploading these documents on Google Doc link and the Google Doc link will be in front of you. Yeah, you will get those links in email, but after the end of the sessions.
Thank you, Khayam. Well, thank you all for your positive feedbacks and compliments. My website is under development, so you can't access that at the moment. All other things are active. To reach me, the best way is to either send me a message on WhatsApp with your intro. That's the most efficient way. Or second best is to shoot me an email. If you do want to send me an SMS or WhatsApp message, please include your intro, your name, what you do, you're an ACCA member or affiliate, and you attended this session, and I would be more than happy to help you. Thank you, sir. Very informative session. Mansoor Jadun. Thank you, Mansoor Sahab. Khayam, stay on your seat. We still have a few seconds left.
Yeah, we have still a few seconds, and there is an announcement that I have already uploaded 3 documents or handouts in the handout section at GoToWebinar panel. So you can download those 3 documents, and in the meantime, I will be uploading rest of the 2 documents. One is on its way, and the other one that is left, I will be uploading within a minute or two. So you guys have to stay with me for 1 or 2 minutes more. I think.
Super fast, Khayam. Thank you very much, Khayam, and thank you all for your kind feedback. We are glad you joined us today. Please do join us tomorrow at 4 p.m. sharp, and we'll conclude this session. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Please stay with us as I am uploading the documents. Only one handout left now, and it's on the way. This will be uploaded on the Google Doc link shortly. Okay. So guys, please let me know that if you can see the folder and the documents that I have just uploaded on Google Doc. The link is given in the Word file over here. So having said that, I'm going to reduce the size so that you guys can see it. Okay, so here is the link for you people. Please let me know in the question box. I think the other one is around 52% uploaded on the GoToWebinar panel. It will be uploaded shortly, so you can download it from this section as well, and as well as you can download it from the given link that I have shared with you. This is the Google Doc link. This will be available to you in the emails, but this will be sent it through email after the end of the sessions, both the sessions I am saying. Okay, so please save it and copy the link that is available right now. The other document is about to be uploaded, only 28% left now. I hope it will be available in a short while, and after that we will end our session, hopefully. Thank you. I have shared the link, Muhammad Nasir. I hope you get it. Okay, let me share it to all. I have sent it the link to all. I hope you guys get it. Please check your chat box or question box. You can also download those handouts from the GoToWebinar handout section. As from my end, the fifth document is uploaded now. Please check after few seconds. I think it is in the process of finalization from GoToWebinar, and I hope they will be showing you the last document. Have you get all the 5 documents in the handout sections, and have you received the link? To all of you, please respond so that I could end the session. Yes, thank you everyone, and very nice weekend from my end, because I will not be available tomorrow, sorry. Okay, goodbye. Allah Hafiz. Take care. Thank you, everyone. Allah Hafiz.